All right, Mike, maybe you watch it, maybe you don't, whatever. You asked my experience about hospice. First experience, god damn, time marches on. It's probably been 15 years ago now. I call him my father, but he was actually my stepfather. My biological father died when I was 6 months old. And this gentleman married my mother when I was 3, so he was the only dad I ever knew. My mother and father retired in Mexico, and when I say Mexico, I mean 800 miles south of the border, between Chapala and Guadalajara. Anyhow, prior to them going there, and I was very, very close with my father, we had gone to Camden, Michigan, and set up on a courthouse wall step, and over a pint of Ezra Brook whiskey, I had swore to him that he would never be on life support, that I would either take care of things myself or give him the ability to take care of it himself. That was a sincere desire of his. So anyhow, 20 years later now, we're down in Mexico. He goes in for a routine something or other, root canal, dental procedure. Shit goes bad. I get a phone call. He's in the Guadalajara hospital. Thank goodness he has a physician who is very fluent in English. Calls me. Now, keep in mind, at this time, he's probably 70 years old, very advanced Parkinson's disease. And the doctor's honest with hell with me. And he tells me, Jim, if you don't do anything, your dad's getting ready to die down here in Mexico, and you are going to have a real fucking mess on your hands. So I'm like, all right, what do I do? Yeah, debate going down there and getting him out, but that's not really applicable. Anyhow, hire this Lear jet to go down. Now, here's what's amazing. This Lear jet flies from Denver to Guadalajara, back to Colorado Springs, and then Colorado Springs to Denver with an RN and a pilot on the plane, and it's like $10,000. At that time, a Care Flight helicopter to go 200 miles was probably $6,000. So, anyways, hire this Lear jet to go down there, medical transport. They get my dad. They take him back to Colorado Springs Hospital. I have family there. They spend the next week getting him all supercharged on nutrients, feeding him through his stomach, and I have family out there looking him over. It's like, okay, what are we going to do? Is he coming back here to a nursing home? Is he doing this, that, and the other? And it just kept getting deeper and deeper, and they're doing more medical stuff and more medical stuff. So I go out there, step in, and this dude can sit up in bed and talk, and I mean, have a conversation with you. I'm like, Dad, what do you want to do? I'm like, Jim, I don't want this shit. I just want to die. Yeah, okay, that's cool. So I find a hospice. It was the coolest hospice I've ever seen in my life. It was an old hospital where they had converted each individual hospital room into like a little apartment. There was a couch in there and a little kitchenette and everything. And so we moved Dad into that hospice room, and he's there. Unhook him completely from food and water and this, just that, and the other. I mean, he's on his own. And family's coming in and visiting him. We're having some great times. We're playing Fats Waller music, and he was in the Canadian Air Force. We're looking through old pictures of that and shit. And the guy just keeps living and living and living. Now, finally, after 7-8 days, he starts to really fail, and things aren't looking so good. And on day 10, this male nurse comes up to me and says, Jim, your dad is a really strong man. Now, keep in mind, he had had all these feeding tubes and all this shit for a week, supercharged him. And he said, dying for some people is a very, very private affair. Very private affair. Why don't you guys go out to dinner tonight and just let your dad have some time alone? That's cool. We weren't gone 15 minutes later and got a phone call. My father had passed away. And I've always wondered if that male nurse had slipped him a little extra painkillers or what had occurred. But that was my first experience with hospice. Second experience with hospice was Mom, and this was probably 6, 7 years ago. And Mom had lived with me, and I had taken care of her, and we had done this and that and everything we could. And one afternoon, got a phone call. She was out in the road in her nightgown looking for her baby, and it's like, okay, this isn't a good thing. So we went into assisted living, and then it progressed into nursing home, and then and she passed away in hospice. Uh, Me sitting beside her bed, holding her hand. That was the time that when she was cremated and I had her ashes, that Teddy made a really funny joke. Hey, I fucked your mom in the ass last night. It was about 4 days after my mother had passed away, and I actually had her ashes back out in Colorado and was going to bury those the next day. Thanks for that fine joke, Ted. But those are my two experiences with hospice. So in one case, I was able to hold my mother as she passed away. And in the other case, I had hugged my father and kissed him and told him that I loved him and it was okay to die about 15 minutes prior to his death. So if you've watched through this whole 6 minutes, I'd be greatly surprised. But you did ask me my experience with hospice.